Afternoon, everybody. Don't know, but actually these talks, how long we get is based on like how good the speaker is and how how well known we are. So thank you very much. Good night. Yeah, my name's Dr. Mastrodomenico. I'm here representing the RSS. I don't work for the RSS. David said I could swear yesterday in these, but they're recording these, aren't they? So I can't swear, yeah? No swearing today. So I don't know if any members of the RSS here? Ooh, that's surprising. Nice, good to see you. So this is relevant to you. So the RSS have a scheme. They have many member benefit schemes, and I've been a member now for 10 years. We have lots of senior members. We have a former RSS president here. Hello, David. And many people like Kevin who've been contributed lots to it. But this scheme was set up in 2014. And essentially, what the aim was, I mean, in real terms, the aim was to stop David doing loads of media work because he was too busy. But it was to find more people who could kind of take on media work and queries that were coming through to the RSS. So it was statisticians who could kind of speak to people in the media, deal with queries from journalists, or just random stuff that kind of came through. So we were looking initially at kind of younger people, which back then I was a younger person. And so people who would be kind of comfortable and wanted to do that kind of work. So all you guys here today, I'm sure you want to do stuff like this. And, I was once you, not that long ago. So, hopefully this will be quite useful to tell you about a scheme we're running that might be open to some of you. And also maybe to give you some hints and tips that you can kind of take away yourself. So there are 31 ambassadors in total. I think there were more. A couple dropped out, which I don't see why. And there are 3 cohorts that joined. So there was cohort 1, 2014. I was part of that. There was cohort 2, 2016, and a third in 2018. Now, despite this being recorded, I'm going to say I think there might be another cohort coming at some point. So keep an eye out if this is interesting to you, but I'm not committing to it because I don't work for the RSS. So the way it worked was you'd have to apply. So they didn't just like pick me out and say, yeah, you're part of this. You had to apply and you had to kind of give reasons why. The begging letter, CV covering letter, why I should be part of this. And we were then taught by a number of people for kind of 2-day training, kind of to show how good we were. And if you think I'm terrible, my 2 teachers are sat just there. David Spiegelhalter and Tamandra Harkness were part of the group that taught cohort 1 how to kind of behave in front of camera and do media work. So there you go. And it was looking to find kind of the next generation, because there has, when we look in the statistics world, there was a kind of dearth of people who could kind of talk about statistics. And, the thing of David doing less, that wasn't really a joke. There was a lot coming in as statistics and data became more prevalent, people were asking more questions, and we just needed more people to kind of deal with it. And we didn't just get ambassadors from, just anybody. It had to be a kind of wider range. So, my background sports, anyone who spoke to me yesterday? There are a few I can see. But we had people from industry, government, medical, and so we had a kind of enough people who could answer enough questions if we got kind of queries from any area relating to statistics. The RSS is a fairly broad church in what it covers, and so what we were looking for is enough people who could kind of deal with what's going on there. So, like I said, you had to apply. I applied. I was successful. And broadly how the scheme works is, a request is sent to the RSS. So this might be from a journalist, TV company, the BBC, whoever. The RSS will distribute that request out to the ambassadors. So we get an email to say, so-and-so's approached us to do this. Do you want to do it? And we opt in to kind of take on that request. And once you take on the request, that's when the kind of journey starts. And so you might go anywhere with this. What the requests can kind of be are quite varied. So you can have things like TV, radio. So we mentioned stats and stories. So I've done that 3 times. More or less, I've done quite a few times as well. A lot of stuff in the media, just generally print stuff. So, you might get quoted in a newspaper. But there are loads of things that you never see. So a lot of the people are doing things where a journalist might ask a question about a story and be like, is this number okay? And the answer is no. And you'll tell them no, and you kind of stop them from putting the story out. So we do kind of a lot of preventative stuff when the journalists come to us, which, is really crucial because, stopping bad statistics making the news is a big deal. So we do loads of that. But broadly, what can you do? So I've been doing this now for 8 years, 9 years. I thought I'd just talk about a couple of stories to do with me and things that I did, because like all of us who get up on the stage, we're all just generally massive egotists and love talking about ourselves. So I'm going to talk about 3 things that I did, and they're very different because they kind of ended in very different ways. And also for you guys who are kind of maybe looking to do some of this, what it entails, because I kind of like a lot of the people here, I have a job, as was mentioned. Like, I have to do things, I have commitments in the day, in the evening. So a lot of this stuff I'm kind of juggling around my normal life. So it's not as easy as just like, I'm going out, I'm going to do like mass communication. Like some of the guys we've had here are like really good at doing that, but that's more kind of what they do. For a lot of you guys, you're kind of working, you've got your careers, and you're going to progress this. Doing this type of thing doesn't have to be the only thing you do, but it can be part of what you do. And it can be like really important because it'll help you develop the skills that you can use elsewhere. So a lot of this stuff that I've done in media, and yeah, I'm going to talk about it now, that's not just relevant for that. That kind of applies to a lot of things I do, whether it's dealing with clients, whether it's being in meetings, whether it's just working with other people, because you kind of learn lessons on how to, behave. And David touched on it earlier, like, you can't go onto TV and just be David Spiegelhalter. You've got to kind of be yourself, and you've got to learn how that is. And the only way you're really going to do it is through doing. But it's not all the case of, you're going to be on Andrew Marr straight away. There are lots of other things you can do. So I've had a couple of hits, but I've had way more misses than hits in terms of things that people would know about. This is one of the misses. So this wasn't that long ago. This was an ITV show, ITV2 show, and that's the weird thing. Like ITV2 coming to the RSS was like a weird thing. We never get like kind of cool stuff coming in. And this was like a kind of company wanting to look at the stats behind some cosmetic stuff. And I probably shouldn't talk about it too much because it would make me sign an NDA and nothing came of it. But the kind of the way a query like this would work is I would get told on one day, and then I'd get a call from, say, a producer at 4 o'clock. Now I'm working, so I take the call, they tell me what they want. I generally would be like, yeah, I can do that, or I can't. They needed the results by 10 o'clock that day. And so you have to go away, you have to do all the work to kind of make this happen and get it done to them by 10, to then have a call at 11 o'clock, to then speak to them again in the morning at 9. And that's the kind of turnaround that you have to deal with sometimes when you're working with a kind of TV company. Because like they're not that organised. Like everyone thinks TV's super slick, it's not that slick. Radio, some of the biggest broadcasters, we'll go on to another one in a bit, they don't really know what they're doing. You'll get a producer or somebody who's working for somebody telling you they want something, and then with that, nothing ever happened. I did all the work, and I kind of did that for them, and nothing came of it. Now, there's probably 2 things to learn from that. Firstly, never get your hopes up with any of this stuff, because there's loads of like chances to do something, but like most of the time, nothing really happens from it. But the second is the kind of time frames that you've got to work in, and how to kind of bring across what you need to give them, and not overcommit. And one of it's been talked about kind of here of how to communicate, how to get your message across. I've got to start on something I've never seen at 4 and get it done by 10, and I have to get it to somebody who could say the exact words I've said on TV. So you've got to be really careful at what you give. Don't overcommit. Don't do too much. Pitch it at the right level, and especially usually because you're working with people in media, they don't really care about the really complicated stuff. They just need to broadly understand what's there and be able to communicate it themselves. That was fine. That was quite interesting. This one was really different. This actually did result in something, but not what I thought. So there was a show, and I think it's available. I think it's on Radio 4. I had a listen. And it's called Typical, and this came to me, and this was a really weird query because when it came, it was just somebody randomly asking, I've got an idea for a show, can I speak to somebody at the RSS about it? And it kind of came my way. And they wanted to do a show about looking at statistics other than the mean. Like, is the mean right? Everybody always gives the mean. What about the mode? And I was like, well, that sounds pretty cool. So I kind of gave them a bit of advice, pat them on the edge, sent them on their way. You think, nothing's going to happen with this, because I've seen this happen loads. And then, like, a few months later, they ring me back. They say, oh, we just got this commission. We're going to be doing it. Can you help us do this? And I was like, what? No, that's weird. Of course I can help you. So, and I thought, yeah, I'm just going to be on camera or being recorded. I'll do all the talking. I love that kind of stuff. But actually, what they wanted me to do was work with the production team. So I'd never done that before, and I've never seen it in the whole ambassador scheme where somebody does this. And I just had to go to all the production meetings, go through all the things they were covering, because it was all data-driven, and none of them had a background. And you had to kind of work with people who were trying to produce the show and, you know, tell them yes, tell them no. And essentially have a really strong kind of leadership role across the whole thing. And I never got to speak on it, and I wasn't bitter at all. But the show got made, it was really good, and they took lots of the advice, and, you know, there were bits they wanted to do that they took out because I said, don't do that doesn't make sense, or I think this might be better. And they were really appreciative of, like, the kind of fact that they had me on board, and I think there might be a second one. If they do, I'll come back on. But the whole point of that was that, you know, that's something really different in terms of what me as a statistician, data scientist would do, because you wouldn't normally have to work in a kind of TV environment. That's not what I do day to day. But, you know, you did it, you learn from it, and you kind of move on. And we get a lot of these queries at the RSS that kind of, you know, revolve around that. Now, how long have I got?
5 minutes.
That's all I need. The last one's the best one, because that's the only good one I got. So this was National Lottery. So this is the one that hit all, you know, when you pull the lever, it hits jackpot, jackpot, jackpot. This was like the one that came from nothing as well. So the story goes, I was sat at home, really ill, and I remember this day super vividly. I don't know why. I had builders in my house, they were doing loads of work, I was feeling not great. And someone from the RSS rang and they said, and I'm sure they tried to speak to you, but I don't know that. I'm sure it went to about 3 people before me, and they said, we got somebody who wants a press release. The National Lottery increasing the number of pools from 49 to 59. Can you make a comment on that? And I was like, oh, go on then. So they ring you and they say, oh yeah, can you just write something down? So, you know, being the clever PhD level statistician I am, I say, yeah, it's going to be harder to win. You know, more balls, harder to win. And I think I did the calculation, but I'm not even sure I did the exact calculation of the press release. Sent it away, and I think it hit a couple of things, and I went on Radio 5 that weekend. I was like, that was cool, that was nice. And then obviously it did change, and what happened was, week after week, nobody was winning the lottery, and it kept rolling over again and again and again. And it got to a point where it couldn't roll over anymore. And at that point, it becomes national news. And so I'm in London one day. I don't live in London, but I was shopping in London in a random day, and at 12 o'clock I get the RSS ringing me saying, can you go on the BBC Breakfast like the next day? And I was like, yeah. And so I drop everything I'm doing. I was with some people, and I was like, see ya, I'm off, get in my car, go back to where I live, and I go up on the news. And so you go up literally that day. So like I found out at 12, I had to go to Manchester, figure out my way to Manchester, find somewhere to stay. Nothing's done for you. And then I'm on the news the next day, and as I go up, you get phoned by like BBC 5 Live, all these radio stations, because they see you're going to be on BBC Breakfast. So all the news is dictated around this one story. And there's no prep, you don't get to kind of know what they're going to say. You know, a lot of the time when you do media stuff, so David, probably just before Christmas, he gave me a chance to go on today to speak about the World Cup. And in that interview, I actually gave them all the questions. I did all my own, I prepped my own interview, which a lot of people, you don't know. If you're speaking about something they don't know, they ask you what to ask them so you know what's coming. But with the lottery story, I didn't know anything was coming. Never done any TV, and I go up there, and all in one morning I did BBC Breakfast, BBC News, BBC World News, and the radio local station. So I got there at like 7 in the morning, and I did 5 Live, then I did the breakfast, and they goes, can you do around the, they call it like around the country or something like that, and you sit in a room for like 3 hours, and you just do interview, and they're all asking me the questions, and I did that, and I thought, wow, this is what it's going to be like every time. And that is the exception to the rule. It also got picked up in most of the national newspapers of which I was quoted. I got onto BBC World News again. I did a couple of appearances. So I did 2 appearances on BBC Breakfast. And, you know, that was the big kind of deal for me in terms of, you know, doing something that was cool. How long have I got? 2 minutes. So that's good, but that was... Nah, it's questions don't matter. That was half the story. The real story was actually when I went up. So I was in such a rush. I kind of got in my car and I put in a suitcase, loads of clothes, because when you go on the TV, you're supposed to, you know, look good. All my clothes in the car, like 6 pairs of trainers. And I'm driving up to Manchester, so I was like, gotta be comfortable. So I put on like shorts and t-shirt, get in the car. But like, yeah, I got this. I get to where I'm staying at 10 o'clock at night, and I open the boot. I left my suitcase at home. I had shorts and t-shirts, so I had to go to Tesco at 10 o'clock and buy an outfit to go on TV. And when I went on the TV, the only not positive tweet I got was somebody calling me a scruffy, C word. And that was why they died. And that is my talk. Thank you very much.